Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, today's video, we're going to be talking about how to find your interior design style. I have done loads of videos on interior design styles. I'm going to link one really good one at the end of this video so you can watch that. But I've never done a video on how to find your interior design style, which feels like a bit of a miss on my part. I must apologize. I've been on YouTube now for like 4.5 years and I've never ever mentioned that. But we're going to rectify that today and we're going to talk about how you find your interior design style. So yes, there's lots of ones that are out there. Scandi, mid-century modern, modern farmhouse, organic modern, post-modern, lots of moderns. But you know what? We're going to talk about it today and you're going to know which one applies to you by the end of this video. Let's get going. Okay, figuring out your design style can be tricky, but luckily today's sponsor, Brooklinen, offers bedding that can fit into absolutely any space, no matter the style. I've been using Brooklinen since early in my YouTube career. Like, I think they've been sponsoring my content for about over 3 years now. It's the only bedding that I put on my bed now. I just got the gorgeous Luxe Hardcore bundle in Pebble, which includes a duvet cover, a fitted sheet, a flat sheet, and also 4 pillowcases. And I absolutely love it as well. I also am really obsessed with sort of the striped lamb's wool throw blanket that they have. I actually have it right here. Sometimes I bring it out here. It's just really soft and warm, and I really like to use it as sort of a layering piece in my bedroom to add some extra color and texture. But I also bring it out to use on the couch sometimes when I'm sort of cozying up on the sofa with Sophie watching TV, because it's great for that too. Brooklinen has so many new items and colorways that you don't really want to miss out on. Right now, Brooklinen is having their Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale, which is of course extremely exciting, with all of your favorite items at up to 25% off. Brooklinen told me that this is going to be actually their best offer of the year, so you don't want to wait, especially since a lot of these items will sell out for Black Friday. So thank you, Brooklinen, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to your interior design style. Okay, first step, finding your interior design style is going to be to consider your context. Context is everything. And sometimes people choose interior design styles without really considering the architecture of the space, the community that they're in, the climate that they're in, you know, where they're located, whatever the case may be. And sometimes this has a tendency of making things look really out of place. Like if you love an industrial design style, for example, but you live sort of in a suburban neighborhood and you're designing a brand new home and your home kind of ends up looking like some sort of contemporary brewery or something. Listen, you're always going to be the one with the weird brewery house. You know what I mean? When everybody else has cute little cottages, you're going to be sitting there with the weirdo house that nobody really understands, right? Or let's say you live in an urban environment and you put like a farmhouse style. Everybody's going to go, kind of cute, maybe, but like, come on, Kelly Clarkson, you don't actually live in a farm, so why'd you put that in the middle of an urban or a suburban environment? So oftentimes, it's like the Tan France effect. I picked on Tan France before. Sorry, Tan doesn't watch my videos, he doesn't care. But like, he famously chose like a very Britishy looking Tudor style mansion that he then put in Salt Lake City, or wherever he lives. I think he lives in Utah. Does he live in Utah? Something like that. Anyway, he lives somewhere around there, and arguably, one could make the argument that it doesn't necessarily fit with that environment, and maybe perhaps feels a little bit out of place. One might say, I'm not necessarily saying that, but one might say, I don't want to start any internet beef. I'm just saying it might be true. And so consider the context of what you're dealing with. What does the neighborhood look like? What's your climate, right? Like if you're in Florida, then maybe don't build something out of like, I don't know, out of brick or something. I don't know if you've seen there's some climate change happening and maybe this might not be the best building material, right? So consider your context. That is going to help sort of define the style of where you go. Now, if you're not building a brand new build, but you're maybe considering just renovating, consider the place that you're in, right? Are you gonna be one of those people that goes viral on TikTok and everybody hates you because you took an old like 1901 house and then decided to go super contemporary and rip out all like the stained glass windows and then everybody hates you on TikTok in the comment section? Are you gonna be that person? Or are you going to buy a house that sort of fits the context of what you're trying to create for your space? Ultimately do what you want, but you may find that you're more successful choosing an interior design style that is going to fit the architecture of the space and as well as the context of the neighborhood and the environment that you're in. Also, 2 quick points here as well, but 2 quick, but very, very important, is what can you afford and what do you already have? You may find that this is not going to be like a step change situation for you. You're not gonna like throw everything on Facebook Marketplace and start from scratch again, right? So keep that in mind when you're looking at what you're gonna do next. You might have some pieces or you might want to keep 80% of what you own. Budget is also gonna be a determining factor here, right? You might have Art Deco tastes, but you know, girly glam budget. And you might be like, well, I would love to do marble sculptures in my foyer if you're American, but like unfortunately I am gonna have to go with glittery rhinestones from HomeSense, in which case that might be part of the story of how you're determining your interior design style. So you want to choose something maybe a little bit more accessible. Some design styles are everywhere. Some design styles are really simple, they're minimalist, and therefore require less stuff. Some design styles are kind of expensive, and they might be a little bit more premium. Art Deco being a great example of a style that, you know, I think is at its best when it's incorporating real, authentic, luxurious materials. Organic modern is great, but it comes usually oftentimes with natural materials, which can be a lot more expensive than sort of everything being veneered or everything being wood effect or something. Might not be as successful of a style if you're doing it a little bit more on a budget. So you might want to sort of make sure that the style that you're choosing is going to fit roughly the budget of what you're looking to do. Because I would hate to think that you're going to have like this idea of this really amazing, beautiful style that you want to create. Now there are budget versions of everything, of course, so that's not to say you can't necessarily get what you want, but just sort of, I'd hate for you to kind of miss the mark and feel like you had champagne taste on a beer budget and you ended up coming up with something that was not really what you actually wanted to do. So being realistic with your budget, realistic with what you have, understanding the context of your home, all that is going to matter, and the architecture and all of that stuff before we move forward. Okay, next up is going to be, so we've understood the context. We're going to now start looking at collecting inspiration, finding that inspo that is going to inspire you to get the style that you're looking for. So some great places to start. Pinterest is great. I'm not a big Pinterest person, but a lot of you love Pinterest. Everybody loves Pinterest, sure, except for me apparently, but people love Pinterest. It's really great at being able to sort of navigate, and you can find somebody's board that you maybe really enjoy and you can start pinning some of their stuff. You can start to gather some inspiration of what you really like. Instagram is really great. There's some really awesome accounts out there that tend to be quite curated because it's from a specific designer perhaps, or from a particular retailer, or just kind of a design enthusiast that you sort of really like their taste, and you find those styles, and then you can start to see a little bit about how they do their bathroom and their bedroom and whatever. You can start to kind of understand and what sort of makes sense for you. YouTube is another great one. You're here. Why not start with me? You know what I mean? Like there's lots of different creators here on the platform that talk about what they enjoy, or there are people like me that share sort of some education here on the internet, and you can start to use that to sort of understand a little bit more about what sort of inspires you. So, you know, a good example would be my video that I did 25 minutes, 50 interior design styles, covered 50 interior design styles in 25 minutes. That gives you a really good starting point, crash course of what's sort of out there. And then what you're gonna start to do is really see what you like, pick up on what you like, and then we're gonna start to take it from there and see like what do these different images and things that you're starting to collect, what do they sort of have in common, right? So using software like Milanote or Pinterest, if you love that, a way to sort of collect some of these images from retailers or blogs, or do people go to blogs anymore? I don't even know, but you know what I mean, those sorts of places, websites, whatever, you know, social media, start to curate some of the things that you really enjoy. And we're gonna take that and you're gonna use that kind of as a starting point to start to curate, okay, these are the things that are starting to have in common, that I'm starting to see patterns here for what I really enjoy. Okay, and that of course seamlessly moves me into the third step, which is going to be to recognize those patterns, right? Like what are the things that you're starting to see? Are, you know, color, material, different wood tones perhaps that you really enjoy, different patterns that you start to see, right? Like maybe you really love plaid and you're starting to see that like plaid seems to come up a lot in what you're looking for, or maybe it's paisley, something like that, I don't know, stripes. Maybe you're starting to see shape being quite similar. So you start to go, you know, I seem to really like round coffee tables. I like really round sort of areas, I like archways. I like seeing lots of curves, or maybe it's really straight, clean lines that you really enjoy, right? So starting to recognize, okay, what are the different things that these sort of images have in common? And I can sort of bring that together. Color being another really great example. You know, do they lean warmer, right? Are they more in kind of the yellow, beige, red, brown sort of undertones? And I don't mean yellow or red like, you know, Ronald McDonald. You know, we're not talking that. We're not talking fast food restaurant here. We're talking a little bit more dialed down. Could be like a dark red wine, could be like a buttery yellow, something that's, you know, maybe it's like a, you know, orangish brown. You're seeing all those sort of rusty, sort of earthy tones or whatever in there. If it's those sorts of colors that you're attracted to, see if you start noticing those patterns in the images that you choose. Or maybe you like things a little bit on the cooler side. You start seeing a lot of blues and greens and grays, you know, things like dark navy. Are you attracted to that? Or stonework that's like really beautiful, like soft grays, things like, you know, a super white, which is or dark kind of gray quartzites or something. If those are really attractive to you, but maybe those greens and blues and things are more kind of your vibe. So you're starting to kind of see, you know, those different color combinations, and you can start to kind of piece together, okay, I think I kind of have an idea sort of where I'm headed with this. Also, you know, recognize patterns in the accounts that you follow, right? Like like, are the accounts kind of similar? So let's say you like House and Garden, but then like magazine, and then let's say you also like Pottery Barn, right? Well, those can kind of be a little bit similar. They kind of have a little bit of a country cottage sort of feel. They're a little bit more traditional than what you're seeing from other retailers. On the flip side, maybe you really love Crate and Barrel, or you like Sunday's Furniture, and you also follow accounts like Japandi Design, or some of these a little bit more like neutral beige, but very simple sort of Scandi sort of spaces, in which case maybe something like a Japandi or a Scandi style might make sense for you, right? So very different styles for very different people, but you start to recognize the patterns of like, okay, I seem to be attracted to the same retailers, the same accounts over and over again. And you start to recognize those patterns over and over, which is great because that means you're on your way to defining what your style is. Okay, and then we have to do a little stopover here. We have to park it for a second as we're preparing for what we love, to also just take a little moment and talk about what you don't like, because I think that's equally important, you know, like, and as a person who doesn't like 90% as I see, that I see now, like honestly, like when I really first started in design, you're gonna call me a snob or whatever, that's fine. But like when I first started, I kind of loved everything. And then as time went on, I've seen it all. You know what I mean? I've seen it all. So now I'm kind of like, there's actually a lot I don't like. And that's a good realization, right? And sometimes that's really healthy because you can go to retailers that you don't like. Maybe you do go to Ashley Furniture and you walk in and go, this isn't for me, or Restoration Hardware and you're like, not for me. Or maybe it is West Elm or Pottery Barn or any of these retailers that other people love, that maybe you go in and you're like, no, this is not for me. In which case, that's important too, because now we're starting to kind of X out some things that aren't gonna make sense for you. It's just gonna help sort of cancel out some things that are just really not your vibe. And that actually does, I think, help curate that list a little bit more, you know, down a little bit more in terms of what you're really looking for to get to where ultimately sort of you end up landing on. Okay, so once you have a bunch of accounts that you've maybe taken software like Milanote or Pinterest or whatever. I like Milanote myself because you have a lot more control. You can just, it's not sponsored, I'm just saying. Like you can like tag things, like you're on Pinterest, you can tag images and you can just put them into a board. And when you pop them into a board, you can start to kind of put your own notes there. You can write things, you can organize them in columns. I use Milanote like every single day for my YouTube business and all my design stuff. So like, I love Milanote. It's just great software. I love it. So anyway, I find it really easy to like curate everything and put it down there. And then once you've kind of got the accounts that you love and you're starting to get those pictures and you're starting to see, okay, I think I know what colors I sort of like. And I think I'm starting to see patterns in shape and texture and all those different things. The next step is going to be that if you can, to really define some keywords that you're going to be using going forward to sort of help define your style. You know, rather than necessarily ending up with the goal of choosing an interior design style like postmodern or Art Deco or Art Nouveau or mid-century modern or Scandi or whatever, rather than saying I am that, sometimes people find that they are going to naturally end up with something that doesn't quite fit into those boxes, but instead is a hybrid of a few different design styles that they're maybe incorporating bits and pieces of sort of the synergies between the different styles, right? So you might choose organic modern, but then you might choose some pieces that might lean into a little bit more of a Scandi style, or it might lean a little bit more postmodern in terms of shape or form, right? So, you know, you're blending different sort of styles together to come up with something uniquely your own, rather than just necessarily saying, I am this particular style. Although there's also no shame in saying, I like designing my space in a Scandi style. And so then, you know, choosing it from there. But I think that if you're not just gonna kind of pigeonhole yourself into this one particular style, what can be really helpful is using some words to describe your style that you see in those patterns of images that we talked about, and nailing down some of those words to sort of define your style in sort of 3 to 5. So you might say something like, it could be earthy, moody, light, airy, bright, fun. It could be subdued. It could be tranquil. These are very, very different words to describe different moods, different sort of palettes that you're using in your space. And so using or defining kind of your space, your style in those sort of 3 to 5 words might be helpful, especially if you're a person that doesn't quite fit into a specific box of like, I am an organic modern style, or I am mid-century modern. You might say, well, I like mid-century modern, but it tends to use a lot of like plastic materials, and it tends to use like avocado green and burnt orange, which are just not really my colors. So you might say, well, I can't just define myself by mid-century modern because that doesn't necessarily quite fit. So instead you might say, one of your words might be modern, but then you might use other words like tranquil or like natural, you know, to maybe highlight the different sort of things that make your style unique, as opposed to just saying I'm a mid-century modern person or my style is mid-century modern. So you're able to sort of borrow bits and pieces from different styles and different patterns that you see in the styles that you really like to create something that starts to resemble a little bit more your own. So trying to really nail down in a few words or a half dozen words your style can be very helpful for people. Now, of course, if you're not into choosing words, you don't necessarily have to do this exercise, right? You can just stick to the visuals. You can just stick to the Pinterest. You can stick to Milanote. You can just stick to the images that you see on Instagram. No one's really making you do this. Remember, at the end of the day, this is about the end result, which is how do you find a space that you feel represents you, that you're comfortable in, that is representing the mood that you're trying to convey to your guests and how you want to feel when you're in your own home. That is the purpose of what we're trying to do here. But sometimes people find these sort of keywords, these power words, just really important to sort of help communicate and sort of act as kind of a guiding light when they're actually going out to retailers and they're actually choosing the furniture pieces that they're going to select for their home, or choose any of the other, if you're doing a full renovation and you're just trying to understand your style a little bit better. Another way to really find out these words as well, if it's helpful for you, is, see what words retailers use when you're looking at a particular thing that you really like. So, for example, if you go to Pinterest and you look underneath and it's got a bunch of images of like other furniture pieces you might like, if you, select some of the things that you really enjoy, notice that when you look at their product description, see the words that they're using, right? Are they using words like modern? Are they using traditional? Are they using detailed? Are they using laid back? Are they using comfortable? Or are they using formal, informal, right? Like these are the words that retailers will oftentimes use, and that's because the designers, the product kind of marketers that are behind it are trying to communicate to you what they think their furniture or whatever is going to fit into your particular style, to see if it'll make sense and work for you. Also other resources, so as I said, you can use the Pinterest feature, works really well. ChatGPT works well. I am a little bit skeptical sometimes on a lot of the AI solutions that are out there because a lot of them are garbo and they're just not that great. They're getting there, but we'll see if they're useful eventually. But for now, I would say ChatGPT is actually pretty good at providing a sort of written description of your style. So going in there and saying, I really like Scandinavian style, what makes sense for those? And you'll start to see a bunch of words tend to pop up over and over again. Same thing goes if you type in, I really like this style, what encompasses this style? Or what are synonyms of this particular style that I like? Or this word, the keyword that makes sense for me, right? And use that to sort of guide your decision-making from there. But ultimately, listen, at the end of all this, none of this really matters. Like no one's gonna, Architectural Digest isn't coming to your house and saying, how would you describe your style in 5 words? Like no one says that. You're just trying to find something that is going to work for you. That's what this is all about. Gathering inspirational images, narrowing down those keywords if you find that helpful, to sort of use that as sort of guiding principles so that you're not just going to the retailers, you're not just going, oh, that's cute, why does none of this work together? It's because you just threw a bunch of hodgepodge stuff together and hope that it worked. And it didn't, because you don't have sort of a cohesive plan for how you're going to create something that's going to make sense, that's going to represent you, but it's all going to work together. And that's really what this is all about. So, this exercise is just there to get to the end result of a beautiful home. And if you have that, that's all that matters in the end, isn't it? Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm going to link here to my video on 50 interior design styles in 25 minutes. Listen, I talk quickly in this video, yes, but I talk quickly in that one too, because I got 50 styles and they use a lot of the words that I described, those keywords that I'm talking about. I chose those words very carefully in that video. We go over 50 different styles there. I think you'll really enjoy it. So that's a really great overview, and you can start to pinpoint what you like and what you don't like. Great starting point for you to find your own style. So I'll see you on that video. Thanks a lot. Bye.